Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today to understand more about how we can create solutions together to support clinical trials and patients in Ukraine during the war. My name is Lisa Vocat and I'm Oximio's Marketing Director based in London. I'll be your host for the webinar today. We've got attendees from all over the world, from Europe, from North America, from Asia, and I believe that we have the same purpose: to understand more about the current landscape from our team on the ground, to discuss what's possible, and to ensure that we prioritise people's safety in this ever-changing environment. Before I introduce you to today's speakers, I want to share a quick update on some of the housekeeping points for this webinar. Your camera and your mic are muted, but you can use the chat function to message us, the organisers, and also submit your questions throughout the webinar. We'll have a Q&A session at the end, and any questions we don't manage to cover live will follow up afterwards via email or on a call. The session will be recorded too and sent to you afterwards so you can watch on demand. I'm delighted to introduce three of my colleagues from Ukraine who'll be sharing their knowledge with you today. Firstly, Evgeny Volnyets, who heads up our commercial legal team and has been with Oximio for nearly 8 years. He specialises in life sciences and healthcare law and works closely with the European Business Association and the Chamber of Commerce in Ukraine to monitor and align with regulatory changes. Secondly, we have Dmytro Zabada, who's another long-tenured team member, starting with SMO as a depot operator back in 2014 and holding a variety of different roles since. Dmytro is now Senior Key Account Manager, and he partners with our clients to develop supply chain solutions for multinational trials, including projects in Ukraine. And last but not least, Oleg Makachuk, who has extensive experience in the clinical trial services industry. At Toximio, he's focused on developing and launching patient-focused services. Not much longer until you hear from the experts themselves, but before I hand over to the team, here's a quick overview of what you can expect today. We'll start with a recap about the situation in Ukraine and what it means to operate under martial law, followed by our assessment of the impact of the war on studies thus far. We'll then turn our focus to Oximio, our people, our operations, and the service we can solution, which is always considering the risk and the rapidly changing environment. Partnership is critical. We need to work together to understand requirements and create new solutions within this new operating environment. We will share ways to make that happen. Lastly, we'll share an example of how supply chain resolutioning has ensured that shipments arrived on clinical sites last week, and then we'll move to our Q&A session. Thanks again for joining us today, and I'm really pleased to hand over to Dmytro to get us started. Over to you.
Thanks, Lisa. Hello, everyone from Ukraine. Glory to Ukraine и слава Україні. My name is Dmytro Zavada and I'm Key Account Manager at Oximio. I have been with the company since 2014. I'm now in Vasilkiv city, which is about 10 kilometers from our warehouse in Krushinka and 30 kilometers from Kyiv. And I'm sure that many have already learned the map of Ukraine in detail and understand where it is. First of all, I'm glad to welcome all of you to our webinar, and it's very cool to realize that this is something what touches our heart, that despite the war, we all found an opportunity to get together and talk about clinical trials in Ukraine. You can be sure Ukraine is alive and the clinical trial market is alive. Of course, often work is disrupted, alarms and sirens are going off, and this is also possible during this webinar. But everyone should understand and accept that right now there is no quiet place in Ukraine. And the only thing we can do is to adapt to the circumstances as best as we can. Something that we have been building together for many years in Ukraine, in the clinical trials market, now requires our maximum joint efforts. development of alternative solutions, new supply routes, treatment of patients, and of course, our safety. This is something we all need to work on together. We have all the possibilities for this, and I am sure that we will only become stronger after the war, so let's make it happen. Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Dima. Good day, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Evgeny Volnets, and I'm head of Commercial Legal Department of Oximio. And now I would like to start with general overview of martial law regime in Ukraine and its impact on clinical trial sphere. So, as we know, 24th February this year, the Parliament of Ukraine approved a decree of President of Ukraine on imposition of martial law in Ukraine as a special legal regime. For the period of duration of martial law in Ukraine, a range of measures have been taken to support the national healthcare system to satisfy the basic medical needs of the population, namely simplification of requirements of circulation of medical products and medical devices in Ukraine, including those import and use, simplification of import and selling process of medical products regarding packaging and shelf life, new rules for transportation medical products by public transport and in postal or baggage carriage, only in case storage conditions are met, of course. Certain exceptions for storing medical products by licensed operator at the premises on which no information has been previously submitted to the license register. In addition, a range of measures have been taken to ensure that people of Ukraine have access to necessary medical services during the wartime, such as selling RX drugs without prescriptions, of course, except for narcotic drugs, engaging lecturers, alumni, and students of medical university to work in pharmacies, engaging foreign medical practitioners to providing medical services in Ukraine. Besides, the import of humanitarian aid from abroad requires only a declaration at customs, so it's very quickly procedure. And despite the difficulties for continuing or launching clinical trials in Ukraine during the wartime, the State Expert Center of Ministry of Health of Ukraine issued respective recommendations about a new risk assessment for sponsor regarding to start, continue, stop, or even change the site of the clinical trial, possibility of use the distant source of communication, such as telephone or other method. Change the approach of IMP transportation. Anyway, all actions of clinical trials must be agreed by the sponsor and agreed, if necessary, in the form of a substantial amendment to the State Expert Center and approved by the Ministry of Health of Ukraine. So we can summarize, martial law completely allows to provide all opportunity to work clinical trial sphere, even provide more simplified requirements regarding circulation of medical products and medical devices, requirements of transportation, storage, and conducting clinical trial. So we can say that the legal situation and regulation was changed. Consequently, business cannot just see the same, just use the same approaches and earlier and do regular operation in general manner. That is why legal department of Oximio suggests to all our clients to sign amendments to our existing contracts with the aim to revise operational part and security measures. And other questions. Lisa, please, next slide. So in this slide, we can see the current snapshot of Ukrainian clinical trials activities, the current situation in numbers. So we really can say that Ukraine sites are a part of largest international trials leading by a major pharma companies who will combine the data across countries to secure approval for their treatment in other countries. It is necessary to secure the success of the trial. For now, we do not have any new startups in Ukraine so far, but we hope that this situation will be changed. Now we have a clear vision and we know how companies can conduct the trials in Ukraine using the benefits from the new simplified regulation. So the main task for all business now is to adapt to new circumstances. To tell the truth, during 17 years of our experience or 8 years of my legal experience in Oximio, we met so many challenges and we think that the best response will be in uniting all our efforts in a process to achieve a result, a current situation. So we all should not stay alone. We need to create new business practice in a new reality. Thank you.
Thanks, Evgeny. And here I want to say about feedback from the market and current trend in our country. As you know, a large number of trials is conducted in Ukraine, and as a result, pharmaceutical companies should quickly respond to new challenges caused by war in our country. What we see during these months that 90% of big pharma companies have decided to continue active clinical trials and to extend the period of patient treatment as much as possible. And there are only a few companies have decided to put all activities on hold and wait for the better situation in the country. But let me state that the current situation in Ukraine makes it possible to continue clinical trials. Sure, we need to change something. We need to adopt our procedures. We need to plan even more in detail all the actions that we want to carry out. But I get that planning and attention to details is in our DNA. I mean, those who work in clinical trials. So based on our analysis, 20% of sites have stopped their activity for various reasons. Principal investigator moved to another city or another country, or sites have damages of the building, or some sites were completely reformatted to help the Ukrainian army. Most of affected sites are located in eastern parts of Ukraine, especially, for example, in Kharkiv region. In the same time, we also know that the most their patients moved to western parts of Ukraine or neighborhood countries and can continue receiving treatment in the same clinical trials. To summarize, that we have the following trend in country: the clinical trials area in Ukraine is recovering, and we have more and more requests for various services here at Oximio. Of course, we all have challenges, we all have some limitations, but the current solutions developed by Oximio this month, which we will talk about later, fully comply with the standards in clinical trials and allow, for example, import shipments, delivery to sites, inbound shipments, or procurement of materials on the territory of Ukraine. So right now, at least 90% of services are possible, and we are happy to support you. Thanks, Lisa. Oops, I guess, yes, this is. I hope you see this picture, and these are our heroes. The first Oximio depot was founded in 2004 in Krushinka village, Kyiv region. And within 18 years, Oximio has grown to 10 countries, but our roots are always here. We have nearly 200 colleagues in Ukraine, and some of them are in the army now, some of them are in the territorial defense. Many people have evacuated outside the country, including more than 18 colleagues and family members who are being looked after Hungarian colleagues. You can see this beautiful picture in the lower left corner that was done by the children of evacuated colleagues to Hungary, including my daughter, who is only 2 years old. Many other colleagues are displaced internally, working from temporary accommodation. And there are a core group of dedicated staff who are committed to providing services to maintain your studies and continue to deliver care. Our priority is our people's safety, and operational activity is done in that with mind. Our colleagues in country include members from central functions, project management staff, or our managing director, and other depot operators and our drivers. None of the services we offer now is possible without the dedication and courage of our colleagues in Ukraine. We are immensely grateful for their focus on patient and customer service to enable Oximio to act as an essential link in the clinical study life cycle, even during this difficult time of war. They truly live our Oximio values, acting with care, commitment, integrity, innovation, and awareness. We are in this country, wait Lisa, we are in this country for 18 years. Therefore, when we say security matters, the life of humans matter, that we mean it, and we should be followed. It is not only a map to look at, it's not only reading the news or social media, but considering the actual circumstances, what we see by ourselves. Thanks, you can. Yeah. Now let's talk a bit about our storage capabilities. The main warehouse is located in Krushinka. Let me highlight, this is not a Kyiv. This is the Kyiv region, about 30 kilometers from Kyiv. The depot is fully functional. It is secured, temperature control is running, and mains electricity is active. The backup generator and fuel supply are in place, should they be needed. Here we can offer you the full range of various temperature regimes, plus 15, 25, plus 2, plus 8, minus 20, or ultra storage, minus 70, and non-controlled. As you may be aware, Oximio has resumed limited operations at the port, and we are already delivered the first shipments to the sites, for example, Kyiv, Lviv, Vinnytsia, and Dnipro. Another interesting thing here, that we are in the final stage of opening our second warehouse, which will be located in Brody, Lviv region. This is the western part of Ukraine. We are currently completing some renovations and will be able to offer storage plus 15, 25 to 8 and non-controlled. Regarding minus 20 and minus 70, we are ready to discuss this upon your request. According to the current status and plan, the opening of the second warehouse is planned for 18th of April. And let me again highlight that we are not talking about closing our main warehouse in Krushinka and using only the warehouse in Brody. The warehouse in Krushinka remains the main depot, and the second warehouse will simply help us deliver shipments more quickly within the western part of the country and, for example, accept imports from abroad, from Hungary, Poland, Slovakia, or Romania. Both warehouses have enough stock of temperature loggers, temperature controlled boxes, and here at Oximio, we additionally already developed alternative routes for their resupply. So the second depot in Ukraine will be fully operational and will be able to provide a full range of services. Thanks, Lisa. Now you see the map of Ukraine with regions. We have divided the map into 4 categories. Yellow, this means that unfortunately airstrikes are possible, but there are no direct military conflict. Red one means that we still have frequent airstrikes, and delivery is possible on a case-by-case basis. Black collar means that we have there constant airstrikes combined with direct military conflict. Unfortunately, delivery to these regions are not possible. And the last one is a black-red zone. Still some airstrikes. However, delivery to the sites near our depot is also possible, and we already successfully delivered the shipments to Kyiv and Kyiv region. What I want to highlight here that security of the humans are the one and only those matters. Patients, drivers, warehouse operators. Operations of any service levels must consider the daily assessment of the situation. Delivery is a daily decision, and no pre-established algorithms or processes can be used in this case. The daily assessment of the situation with zoning is based on the official information of Ukrainian government regarding military activities in Ukrainian regions. Our Ukrainian Managing Director, Vladimir Ksanik, has ultimate responsibility to decide about these zones on the daily basis, again considering official information. If we see any changes in zones, we will inform our customers and partners accordingly. So, based on the current assessment, we are able to cover transportation to 65% of regions in Ukraine, and I think that is great in current situation. That is all, Lisa. Yeah. Alex, floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Dmitro. Good afternoon, dear attendees. My name is Oleg Makarchuk. I am currently in Ukraine. I'm BD expert of Strategic Services and Alliances Department. We are responsible for development and improvement of patient-focused, patient-centric services. To support patient sponsors and sites through this uncertainty, Oximio has set up a dedicated hotline where colleagues will be available to answer calls in Ukrainian. The purpose of this service is to provide a point of contact for patients who are participating in trials in Ukraine, collect specific data as agreed required by the sponsor, channel communication between the sponsor, CRO, and the patient, assisting in mapping patient situation and status of priorities upon the return of operational capabilities. Identify patients who have evacuated Ukraine and in need of drug provision, re-enrollment on the clinical trial in another location, and consider ways to support that partnering with our clients to support their patients is part of Oximio's mission, including adapting our approach due to the operational context. Oximio resumes the following patient-focused services, such as patient transfer, patient reimbursement services, which includes petrol coupons and meal vouchers, direct-to-patient delivery, which includes depot-to-patient delivery and site-to-patient delivery, site-to-site transfer, and cross-country patient travel support. Also, the novel service for Ukraine is home healthcare. Quick implementation on nurses' visits to clinical trial patients at home. And here is the question, how home healthcare helps to solve challenges. And we are aware about positive patient experience, reduced number of sites visits for patients and their families, better healthcare outcomes, patient safety, and patient compliance with the treatment. For sponsors, it's increased trial participation and improved retention of patients, high level of trial data integrity. All services and schemes of their implementation and operations are in compliance with the current legislation. Next, please. We have included some of the most common questions we have received from our customers here, and we'll share the answers with you. Please note that our solution considers the magnitude of risk and careful assessment even in a rapidly changing environment. Importance to keep control over the security of humans and as well as the product flow. Operations of any services levels must consider the daily assessment of the situation. Processes are to be defined in advance, so reaction of any new circumstances can happen. For example, informing sites, patients, etc. It is continuous solution and reaction to demand. Prioritizing, managing capacity, build new transportation, importation schemes are on our agenda. We see our clients as partners with whom we are jointly develop the solutions. So can you perform customs clearance and how? Yes, we are able to do this. Transportation going to cross border, our broker can make the customs clearance. Can you act as importer of record? Yes, we can. But note that separating import of record from the logistics increases risk within the supply chain by fragmenting it further and breaking chain of custody. Our recommendation is to consolidate logistics and supplementary services to reduce risk in the supply chain. Can you perform the end-to-end process from import to deliver to site? Yes, as usual work as it was before the war, but taking into account updated operational processes due to war in Ukraine. What documentation is required for import? We need standard set of documents, invoice, certificate of analysis and batch release for IMP, and additionally we need CMR, it's a transport document for vehicles that crossing the border via the road, and export declaration. Also, we need to know location of customs point where we perform customs clearance. We states on that all shipments must be approved by our team prior dispatch by sender. And the last one, when can we audit your new regional depot? According to our current project plan, during the fourth week of April, this can be done. How we can work together to deliver care. Here we would like to highlight the following actions that need to be done as soon as possible. Gather the status of sites which are open, which are partly open, and which are closed. Also, here it will be very important to understand whether there are active patients in the sites, where the enrollment of patients is open or not. This information will be very helpful for shipment planning. The next step will be important to obtain information on number of IMPs for each specific protocols, whether IMP is needed or perhaps the site has enough materials. The third step is to obtain information about patients who may have moved to another city or country. This will help analyze the data and make quick decision on how to continue treating patients. The fourth step is to get information about the current stock in warehouse. Based on this common information, we are making the prioritizing of the shipments with regards and approved this with our clients. With regards to process additional amendment to contracts, legal situation is changed. Therefore, our legal department developed amendments to master service agreements that covers operational part, security, and updated rates. We are in touch with all our clients and sharing most updated information about operations. Next, please. Yeah. Defining the increased cost to serve operations is extraordinary circumstances. The impact of the war means that we must rebuild supply chains and logistics plans, given the people, resources, and infrastructure available. There are some of the practical considerations. Driver salaries have increased, multiplied to 4, given their availability and risk associated with their job. Significant increase to the cost of fuel, which is regulated by the government, as is supply. Longer roads in a distance and time to deliver shipments. Increase the cost of materials, including packaging. Our rate card increases is temporary, and when the situation normalizes, we will revert to regular operations. This means that at least the next events should be happen. Cessation of military aggression, lifting of martial law, removal of financial and legal restrictions, including currency market. Restoration of critical infrastructure, its roads, airports, power plants, etc. Rebuilding supply chains and decrease of shortage of operational materials, fuel, packaging materials, cleaning products, consumables for equipment, and so on. Restoration of the labor market for manual workers and critical specialties, warehouse operators, drivers, pharmacies, and including partial return of refugees.
Lisa, I guess you can show next slide.
Yep, thank you.
Yeah, as I said before, Oximio Ukraine has resumed delivery to the safe regions based on our daily assessment. And we are happy to inform you that we already delivered more than 90 shipments within Ukraine within, I guess, in 2 last weeks. Let's look at the delivery process based on one example. This is an oncological study with the request to deliver plus 1525 IMPs and clinical trial supplies to one site located in Ivano-Frankivsk. This is western part of Ukraine. We received the request on Friday, 18th of March, and confirmed that materials will be delivered to the final destination on next Tuesday, including weekends, on 22nd of March. However, our government announced the enhanced curfew for 2 days on Monday and Tuesday. This information was immediately provided to the client, and we reconfirmed that the next attempt to prepare and ship the shipment will be on 23rd of March, on Wednesday. And thank God, as a result, on the 23rd of March, our depot staff prepared the shipment, and our drivers successfully delivered it to Ivano-Frankivsk on 24th of March. Based on this experience, we can state that delivery process will take 2-3 days after shipment request. But again, the timelines may be extended based on the current situation in the country. For example, in this particular case, we had curfew for 2 days, so this were not possible to process the shipment on Monday or Tuesday. But without curfew, we are able to process shipments within 2 or 3 days to any destination based on our operational map. That is all, Lisa. I guess we can proceed with answers.
Thank you, Dmitry, and thank you to to the rest of our team for presenting, and to you all for listening today. There've been some questions coming in throughout the webinar, and I'll ask some of those to our presenters now. And again, if you have additional questions, please submit them via the question tab within Teams, and any that we don't address now during the live session, we'll ensure that we follow up with you afterwards. So the first question I've got here, Dimitri, I think this is one for you. The question is, are you able to provide inbound solutions? And if so, from which countries?
Yes. With regards to inbound shipments, we are operationally ready to accept new shipments. Delivery is possible right now only by road from neighboring countries such as Hungary, Slovakia, Moldova, Poland, Romania. Just to describe, the import process still remains the same. The sender sent to us pro forma invoice, we approve it. After that, sender then perform delivery by the road to customs post. It can be at the customs, at the cross border. We can perform at customs point in Lviv, for example, and then perform final delivery to our warehouse. So there is no problem with import and inbound shipments.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. I think that the next one's another question for you. So they have asked, are procurement and comparator sourcing services available and possible, and if so, how?
Yes, with regards to procurement services, last week many suppliers have resumed their work. Some of them are still located in Kyiv region, some of them transferred their offices and warehouse to the western part of Ukraine. At the same time, they continue to receive import shipments, so there should be no issues with the availability of products. And if I'm not wrong, yesterday our procurement department purchased first materials on the territory of Ukraine. So if you have any specific request, I am sure that our procurement department will help you with this. Just let us know.
Wonderful, thank you. I've got another question here about quality standards, and the question is from a Ministry of Health perspective, how are quality standards maintained during this time? And I think that's probably one for Evgeny. If
I believe yes.
Hi.
So thank you for this question. This is a very important question, really very important topic. So from one side, we know that government and state expert center simplifies the requirements for transportation, for import, for sailing. Even it was adopted exceptions for premises where the products are stored. But from the other hand, companies must comply with all quality requirements, including temperature, storage, conditions, and general system quality system rules. So as we mentioned earlier in our webinar, all companies should think about the concluding amendments to MSA and TQA and revise operational part, quality questions, security and liabilities measures. So the party will be able to put all these simplified requirements in this document, and then they can work it, and this mechanism can be a good approach for future cooperation. So
thank you. Thanks very much. I think it's about time for us to wrap up now. So for any questions that we weren't able to address, as I said, we'll come back to you after the webinar.
I see the question from Olena Tomina,
okay.
Director in AstraZeneca.
Okay.
Hello, Olena. If I understood correctly, you need to perform delivery of the IP to site in Vinnytsia. Yes, and based on our operational map, we are fully able to perform delivery to Vinnytsia, and we already had successful cases of the delivery to this region. There are no any issues or something that can ban delivery to this region. I answered your question. Another one I see. If we have medication in your Kyiv depot and we need an inbound to Ukraine and future distribution within yellow zones, would you recommend the inbound goes directly to Lviv depot instead of Kyiv depot? My recommendation is to send this shipment to our Kyiv depot, and the depot is secured. We have the depot is fully equipped with all needed materials, and I do not see any reason to wait half of the months. Then we need to consider here different audit procedures that also will take some time. So my recommendation is to send the materials to our Kyiv depot, and my colleagues here will distribute this in accordance with the timelines. What else?
Wonderful. Oleg?
Yep. I also see the question and would like to reply. Would it be any solution for laboratory samples shipment to central labs in Europe? I know that this is not in particular Oximio task, but maybe you have any information available from Korea or customs. On this stage, I would like to ask to send a query to my email address, and we are on stage of finalizing this process and working on this. And mainly we need to know whether dry ice is needed and quantity of ongoing projects, and we would be happy to support your team. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. Again, if you'd like to get in touch with any of our experts from the webinar today, the email addresses are on screen. Yeah, thanks again. Thanks for the time to listen and to help us to re-solution supply chains in Ukraine to continue to support trials and their patients. And that's it from us at Toximio today, and enjoy the rest of your day. Take care.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.